Hi, Chaplain Steve, and I'm doing a part two of yesterday's video dealing with do atheists go to heaven? And there's going to be some more clarification on that a little bit. But anyway, I'm going to start with my experience back in 2010 when I had that car accident and what I went through. And the best way of explaining it, it was in a processing center where everything happened. Everything is being processed one way or another. And one of the things I keep, focused on, and I've talked about this before in other videos, is the guardian angels. And one thing I'll tell you about the guardian angels, they're assigned to people. They're assigned to every soul that's out there. And some of them, and I have mentioned this before, I kid you not, it is, who they deal and what they're dealing with and who they're dealing with and the kind of stuff that goes on is just beyond comprehension how bad it can be. In other words, and I talked about this before too in the other video, that they carry on. Some of these people reject God. They reject angels like no other. They don't want anything to do with God. They want nothing to do with angels. They want nothing to do with any of it. They just want to be left alone. And so when the guardian angel comes by, they really react. And in this one particular case, and I talked about this too, is that they carry on, and it's kind of stunning what I saw, that they really just carried on and they just kind of rejected everything. They didn't want to be with the angel whatsoever. And one was carrying on yelling and screaming and doing whatever, and the guardian angels said to him, "I think we need to discuss your behavior." And I got to tell you, and I said this before too, they really, some of these guardian angels really have a tough job. It is stunning to find out how tough their job really is, but they have a tough job. Anyway, that's kind of, and things go on with guardian angels and the soul that they deal with. We talked about this too before, that, nothing is forced on you. And that's really important. To get to the question of do atheists go to heaven, it's all about choice on both sides of the fence. And one thing God will not do, force you in any way. What he wants, most of all, is your choice. What he wants is free will. He wants you to choose him, and that's what this is all really about. And I talked about yesterday just kind of vast forgiveness, and the one thing he wants every soul to accept him, to be with him. And some people, there are souls that, as I said before, they didn't want anything to do with God whatsoever. And so it's kind of hard to believe, but it really is the case. There are those souls out there that want nothing, but nothing to do with God, nothing to do with heaven, nothing. They just reject everything. And they literally want to be left alone. And in fact, they are left alone. They are in a space that really can be very lonely, but they don't mind it. But anyway, to go and continue though, it is about choice. So when we talk about atheists going to heaven, it is a choice. And what I mean is that, they may not have believed in God in the lifetime they were just in our lifetime. And they may have rejected, and for a lot of reasons, that they rejected God, but they were of the good. I mean, they treated people with respect, they treated them, they had their moments like all of us do, but overall they were of the good. But the bottom line is this, and here's what the clarification has to be. That person who was an atheist during the lifetime, just somehow came around and accepting God. And God, believe it or not, is that hard to describe. But if they reject God and I guess the best way of it's kind of like earthbound zone. If they reject God, God is always there. In other words, He's up there. And what I mean, it's a kind of a very dim white light that just follows you wherever you go. It's just, God just is there just to remind you. But the people that reject God don't even notice it. They don't even, they're just oblivious to that fact that he's up there. And he just kind of waits patiently for them to come around, if they do in fact come around. And so, as I said, it's really about choice. And it's really important. So when I talk about do atheists go to heaven? Yeah, they do, but it's based on not only being of the good, but it's also based on that they accept God, and they know that God is real, and so that's when they really actually go to heaven, is based on that. And so I wanted to kind of clarify that a little bit more, and Yeah, and there's a lot more on this too. I mean, there's just so much that goes on in this. And the one thing I will tell you, one of the things that I rebirth. That is something that is decided upon between you and God and some of the other angels that you're with, and the one that your guardian angel that you discuss that if you want to get into another life. Nothing again is forced on you. I mean nothing. That is sacred to God. That nothing is forced on you whatsoever. And so, but they'll come around and they'll ask rebirth. They won't say any, are you ready for rebirth? They'll just say rebirth, and you can reject it. You can say not yet. I'm not ready or whatever. So as I said, nothing is forced upon you whatsoever. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk about something else too, just a little bit, and that has to do with me. And I have told everybody that I'm going through my own, and the best way of explaining it is that I'm dealing with evil, and I deal with evil almost 24/7 because now I'm a target. And what it turned out to be is a test of faith, a test of faith like no other. And I'm not the only one that's going through this. There are others that are, all around the world that are going through this, whether they're chaplains, whether, I'm in good company. There are priests that have gone through this. There are a lot of people that go through this. But God wants me to know about it. But really, the bottom line is about test of faith, how much you really believe. And it's not really, believing in God as such, but that the choice of goodness. The choice of what God represents, that's what's being tested. And, when you go through things like this, it is, as I said, it's a real test of faith. And I go through quite a bit. And as I said before, too, it only goes to a certain point. And that's how God's involved a little bit. But, you have to go through this, and it's a test of faith. One person I talked to in New York who knew somebody else who was going through it, but they got through it. Their episode, their test of faith ended. And the way he described that person that he knew, that other chaplain, is that he really had a sense of peace. He had an uncanny sense of knowing. And so, people go through this. I'm not the only one that's going through this. It just that's what I'm going through. But I will tell you one thing, too, about God. There are times for me, I really long for God. There are times I really have a sense of longing, and it's to be in His presence. I don't know how to explain it to you, but to be in His presence. And the one thing I want to reiterate to you, to everyone out there, He really loves you, and He accepts who you are. He knows who you are, and what He wants is to be with Him. That's why you created, and I put this in another episode before. The why you were created is to be with Him forevermore. Always remember that, to be with Him forevermore, and that's what God wants out of you, to be with Him forevermore. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end it here, and I'm going to do one more video after this one. And I talked about this too, the other sides of God. There's a lot more going on with His personality of who He is, and based on some other ND experiences that I have talked about, or that people have talked to me about. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end it here, and again, I appreciate your time. And as always, I hope your day is going well. And again, I really appreciate your time, and thanks for watching. Thanks again.